Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the PGA DFS Pick Show. I am your host, John McNutt, aka John Cole 19, here for Fantasy Sports Insight, talking daily fantasy, DraftKings, golf. Quick recap of last week in Mayakoba. Russell Henley had a huge lead on Saturday. He did not blow it this time, which he's done a few times in the past. Went on to cruise to victory on Sunday, even though Scotty Scheffler stormed up the leaderboard. Gave him a little bit of a scare. 9 under for Scotty Scheffler on Sunday, but that was not enough. Russell Henley gets the win. Here on this pick show, I picked 7 golfers last week. 5 of the 7 made the cut. One of my favorites, Victor Hovland, did finish top 10, and one of my low-owned pivots was Brian Harman. He finished solo second place, so good for him. Helped some of my DraftKings lineups with that low ownership and high DraftKings score for the week. Let's see if we can repeat that jumping into this week. This is the Memorial Park Golf Course. We are in Houston, Texas, obviously, for the Cadence Bank Houston Open. The course is a very long 7,400-yard par 70 with Bermuda grass greens. This is a very difficult track. The scoring here is not like what we've seen over the majority of the last few weeks. It is very long, very tough course. We're going to see a lot of bogeys and not nearly as many birdies and eagles this week. The course also tends to get a bit windy here in Houston. That is always an issue. We'll look for that, and it could give us an edge in our showdown lineups. We always like that when we can get a little bit of a weather edge in one slate or another. And we will be checking the weather as well leading up to lock on Thursday morning. So really Wednesday night in our Discord chat, I'll post really all my insights as far as weather goes, as well, and ownership. Everything else will be in our Discord come Wednesday. A little bit more about the course, though. These are some very difficult to hit greens. The fairways are actually above average as far as difficulty also to hit, but really it's the greens. They are very fast. They can get quite firm. And as far as rollouts, there's lots of bunkers and fall off on these greens. There will be quite a few shots coming around the greens this week from golfers who actually hit the green on their approach, but could not stay on the surface. I'm looking at approach as my number one key stat this week. With the difficulty of the course, bogey avoidance is very high in my model this week versus other weeks. I'm also looking at shots gained on difficult scoring courses. I'll be considering that quite a bit. Bermuda grass putting, very important this week. And then total driving, I included as well. That is a combination of drive distance plus drive accuracy. It absolutely comes into play this week. Missing the fairway is pretty critical. And then being long off the tee is absolutely helpful on this long course. I'm looking at the past 2 years it's been played. The Houston Open has been played at Memorial Park. So only 2 years worth of stats. One thing that I've noticed quite a bit that becomes very important is approach from 200 plus. There is a lot of long approach shots. So I'm going to be targeting golfers who are best with those very long irons. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into my favorite plays for this week on DraftKings. I'm going to start at the top of the board in the pricing. And that is Scotty Scheffler. He's about 5.5 to 1 to win on the DraftKings Sportsbook right now, 11,500 on the daily fantasy side of things. I probably wouldn't want to bet. I would rarely bet an outright winner as the favorite for the event. But come DraftKings, I am absolutely interested in playing Scotty Scheffler this week. I did mention before he had an excellent Sunday last week to finish in third place. He shot a 9 under on Sunday, so just absolutely stormed up the leaderboard. He has top three finishes in his last 4 events, and that is dating back to the Tour Championship and the playoffs last year. He has played this course a couple times. He was 32nd place in 2020, and then he was runner-up on this track last year. If you don't already know, Scotty Scheffler is from Texas, so this is a home event, if you will, for him. Bermuda grass is his best putting surface, so I like that a lot with Scotty. He comes in ranked number 1 shots gained on difficult scoring courses. And then just the stats, his last 36 rounds, he's 3rd on approach, 20th around the greens, and 6th off the tee. He also avoids bogeys, top 5 in this field, and he's well above average for drive distance. So a lot to like on Scotty Scheffler, not to mention number 1 golfer in the world, but I think if you can jam him in your DraftKings lineups, 11.5 is absolutely worth it here for Scotty Scheffler. Another golfer who probably is going to be very popular this week, and that is Aaron Wise. He's 9,900 on DraftKings, about 16 to 1 to win outright odds. He was 15th last week. He also had a very good Sunday, 7 under par. He was 6th at the CJ Cup. Looking back at his last 6 months or so, he hasn't missed a cut since June at the Travelers. So very good form for Aaron Wise. He's kind of been getting more and more expensive on DraftKings, especially during this swing season. He has been over 10K quite a bit. So I think the 9.9 is a fair price here for Aaron Wise. He finished 11th place at this course in 2020, 26th last year. Good course history. He ranks second behind Scotty Scheffler when it comes to shots gained on difficult scoring courses. So very good on tough tracks. And then for his stats, he's 17th on approach, 22nd off the tee, and he is third avoiding bogeys in this field. Oh, also top 10 proximity from 200 plus yards that I mentioned before. So a lot to like on Aaron Wise. I think he's going to be quite a bit more popular here, even than probably Scotty Scheffler, mostly due to the price. It is not very easy to get Scotty Scheffler plus another high 9K. Like the two of these together would be very difficult on DraftKings. So I think a lot of players are going to end up starting at the lower 10K range, if not at Aaron Wise 9,900. Gives you a lot more flexibility in your lineup construction, but don't forget about Scotty Scheffler this week. If you're playing more than one lineup, I'm absolutely jamming him in. If you are only playing one lineup, maybe get a little bit cute somewhere else and go different than Scotty Scheffler up top, but I absolutely think he's a great option to start all your DraftKings lineups. So talking now some value plays as well as some ownership pivots. For me, the number one value that popped up is Davis Thompson. Not a golfer we've talked about a lot on this show. We kind of hit when he just jumped onto the PGA Tour, played a couple events. The hype was really, really big on him. He kind of cooled off a bit, had to kind of move through the Korn Ferry Tour playoffs. But looking at the start to his season this year, he's made 3 out of 3 cuts. That's his last event was 12th at the Shriners. A couple events before that, he was 9th place at the Fortinet Championship. So it's got some really good form coming in. No course history here at the Houston Open. But his recent tee to green and approach have been excellent. The irons have been very, very good. And really his everything but the putting has been excellent as of late. I think this course, though, from time to time, you're going to get some golfers who don't necessarily jump off the charts as the best putters in the field, who can play very well here. I think Davis Thompson has an opportunity at that this weekend. 17th on approach, his last 36 rounds, 20th off the tee. He's also top 15 on par 5 scoring and on drive distance. So really getting it all done. He just needs to make some putts this week. And I think Davis Thompson, excellent option at 7,300 on DraftKings, and maybe even worth that outright or a top 5 at the 80 to 1 odds. Another golfer not on this slide that I do like quite a bit as a value play, and that's Dean Burmester, not a household name on the PGA Tour, has played most of his events over on the DP World Tour and then through the Korn Ferry Tour Championship. He was 5th at that Tour Championship just a few months ago. Since then on the PGA Tour, 4th place, 37th, and then 32nd last week. That is really good for a golfer in that 70. He's at 7,600 on DraftKings, a good option there. I think he's going to be pretty popular, though. Right now, he is showing double-digit ownership for all the reasons that I like him. Other people are on him as well this week. So looking at some golfers that maybe will help your lineups as far as being a little bit more unique, not giving you all of the chalk plays. These are some low-owned pivots that I really like this week. I'm going to start off with Adam Hadwin. He's at 8,300 on DraftKings. Somewhere around 5% projected ownership right now. Looking around him in the pricing, Pendrith and Davis Riley are looking at are probably going to be 2 or 3 times as owned as Adam Hadwin, 2 or 3 times the ownership. Adam Hadwin is excellent Bermuda grass putter. He's also very good at gaining strokes on difficult scoring courses, like I mentioned before with Scotty Scheffler and Aaron Wise. So a lot to like here for Adam Hadwin. Another golfer, this guy has been very, very good lately. The form is excellent for Patrick Rogers, 7,800 on DraftKings. He's going to be a little bit higher, maybe 9% ownership on DraftKings. Although if you look at the golfers right next to him, Burmester, who I mentioned before, Lee Hodges, Gordon, Hughes, all of these golfers who are right there in the pricing with Patrick Rogers, all of them, I believe, are going to be higher owned than him, maybe a little bit forgotten in that price range. Patrick Rogers is very, very good off the tee, and his form coming in 54th, 28th, 16th, 3rd, 27th. I like all that for a guy under 8K on DraftKings. Very good form here. Last golfer I'll mention is David Lipsky. He is a guy that more often than not is in the 6K range. We play him a ton because of the ball striking. He is a very, very good ball striker. The ownership's probably going to come in 3 or 4% this week. Looking next to him, Luke List, Steven Yeager, probably both will be somewhere around double the ownership that David Lipsky, but I don't agree with that. Lipsky is higher in my model rankings than both Yeager and List. He's a very accurate driver, very good ball striker, like I mentioned. I think David Lipsky is a great option to give you a low-owned option, low-owned pivot at the end of the 7K range without having to dip all the way into the 6K. I like all of these guys. I don't necessarily recommend to play each and every one in the exact same lineup, but I think all of them give you good options to get off of the chalk and get to some guys that are just as good, that are not going to be nearly as high owned. So that is going to be it for this week's picks. I appreciate you watching. If you could leave any questions or comments below on the YouTube channel, I'd be happy to answer anything that you have. Again, we'll be talking ownership, weather, and then our core plays in the Discord channel. Best way to get into our Discord, and that is through our Twitter at FSI_DFS, or you can go straight through our website, www.fsidfs.com. I appreciate you watching, and good luck this week.